You got it?
Yeah, it works good.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 20th, 2022 Town of Norfolk Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. In accordance with the provisions of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A,
Recording in progress.
Section 20, notice is hereby given that the Zoning Board of Appeals is meeting tonight, Wednesday, July 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. in Meeting Room 124, 1 Liberty Lane, Norfolk. Additional public access to this meeting shall be done via Zoom with a call and dial number. All right, good evening, everyone. Tonight we have our first public hearing is scheduled for 7 o'clock. It's 7:05, and that is entitled 269-273 Dedham Street. It was an application for a special permit. I'm going to recuse myself from that hearing and turn it over to David Axberg.
Thank you.
Is the hearing to be read in?
It's
opened already?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
already open.
It's already open, I think. Do we have anybody present for that?
You do,
Online?
Online?
Online, yeah, sorry, it's like Google. Let's see, so.
Bear with us, we're trying to connect you.
I know Melissa is, but. So in terms of,
Melissa, how is Arizona doing? If I remember correctly, you're the one from Arizona.
Yes, it's a little warm here, and we're for the dry heat, but we're in a phase of summer storms, so we have humidity too, which everyone is losing their minds over. But I'm sure you guys have no sympathy for that.
Very good. Do you have anything that you have that you need to bring forward to us from the planning board meeting that you just had?
No, I don't think there was
no, they were
anything.
at the planning board.
They
They're
didn't have to go,
selectmen.
oh, the selectmen, sorry.
No, select board. They issued, their license was contingent on the permit, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
So.
what do we need to do?
So tonight, you can, one, close the hearing. I drafted a decision
Yep,
for you
I
to
saw that.
deliberate. So you can close the public hearing and then deliberate on the decision that's before you. And vote on that. If it seems appropriate.
You're still 45 vehicles?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me see what, can you,
Just the comics, right?
yeah, go down to the, I want to make sure I gave you the right one. I don't think I did.
Caravana, whatever it is, right?
No, I didn't. All right, let me,
The rental car.
hold on, I gotta give you a different one.
This the same area where they
I want to see.
photovoltaics are.
'Cause I did-
everything else, right? Not Dedham Street.
Yeah.
It's,
I think what we'll
it's
do
the
is,
same spot that they're currently
um,
at, just more.
Just wanted more space.
Was it the one that was in?
Behind.
That's what I thought.
I want to look and see what was in the folder. Let me double check, because I added some, so in terms of what, well, we could talk about it now before you close the hearing. In terms of, let me go look in the folder here, because what I added is some conditions relative to, you know, you're going to maintain the gravel surface that's there, keeping it in good working order, but you're not not paving it. If you pave it, then you're triggering a whole
Kit and caboodle.
kit and caboodle in terms of stormwater review, et cetera. So that was one of the conditions that I,
Paving.
what's that?
We won't be paving, so that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Good,
and-
good answer.
Yeah, that was a good answer. Yeah, actually, let me,
It might be hot in Arizona, but they're quick.
they're quick, yeah. Just give me a second, I'll put on the, I'll, just want to check this one.
So do you want to add a third condition that they shouldn't, about no
Okay.
pavement?
Yeah, because I only have the solid fence.
Yeah.
You're gonna keep a solid fence around them, Melissa?
Yes.
Very good.
Let me go. Now, I thought I had this all squared away before we got here on TV, and now I'm a little miffed to myself because,
The special permit's good till 2028 if granted.
Perfect. That is when our lease expires, or I guess is up for renegotiation.
Yeah, isn't that a wonderful thing when they all work together?
It is.
It is.
All right, I have it. This one here, I'm just gonna save it as a PDF. We're having issues displaying it on there from Word, so that's why I'm just gonna save it as a PDF and I'll put it up on the screen. We'll have Elaine put it up on the screen. I'll go through it. Alright. So now if you go into, should be 7 conditions on, let's see, we open it up. We'll work backwards. I'll have Elaine go to the conditions, so we'll go through it. What I did was, I'd spoken to Caitlin Nova, our conservation agent, in terms of, which I, some conditions, just to keep everybody on,
At the end, right?
yeah, at the end. Yeah, so you want
Oh,
to
so you added 2.
It's got the
Yeah,
solid fence and the,
solid fence, but then in terms of, you blow that up, or including the,
Not the traditional sense, it's more just like vacuuming, dusting.
Okay.
The cars are detailed at our inspection centers, like a detail clean, an actual clean, and then they just sometimes get dirty in transport. So just sort of more of like a wipe down and getting it presentable to be delivered to the customer.
okay. So what, so again, we're having that in there just to keep things, as, in terms of
Up front.
not to do cleaning, because there is no stormwater on that site in terms
Yeah.
of the existing conditions, and, you know, if you clean, it could run off into the wetlands, and then we have TMLD for phosphorus in the Charles River watershed, so we just want to be a little cautious to make sure we don't go down that pathway.
That makes sense. That's fair.
That's a long answer for that condition, or long, whatever you want to call it, explanation. And then the last one in terms, again, is just keep the pavement, you can maintain and keep the pavement that's there, and you can maintain and keep the gravel that's there, but if those two things changes, where the drainage pattern changes, or you or the property owner change things, then it's gonna trigger conservation.
Understood. We don't have any plans to do any additional, and everything is done.
Good.
All right. So other than that,
Okay. Do I hear a motion to close the hearing, and then we can deliberate afterwards?
sure. Make a motion, we close the hearing for 269, 273 Dedham Street for the special permit for commercial vehicle storage.
Do I hear a second?
I'm gonna work on it now.
I'll second it.
Good. All in
I'll
favor?
print it from
Aye.
here over there.
Thank you very much, Melissa.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.
Alrighty, enjoy.
Which
You
way?
too.
So Elaine,
Welcome back, Tim.
Thank you, David.
Glad you could make it.
Next on the agenda, scheduled for 7:05, is 71 Cleveland Street. Application for a special permit for ground-mounted solar. I don't know if the applicant's here or not, or on Zoom.
Hi, I'm here. My name's Kristen.
Hey, Kristen. Welcome.
Yes, I am a representative from Vision Solar.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Kristen, did you want to be a co-host? So you could do a presentation, or?
Kristen, do you want to be a co-host to
Oh.
do a presentation?
No, I did not.
Okay. It's all right, I speak loud enough. It'd probably pick up in all of them.
All right, so then you want to just display the plans that we
71
have.
Cleveland, where the hell is it?
There's 71 Cleveland.
Trying to think, I'm not sure.
Chris?
It could be.
Is that the field, the old pond? Yeah. Right on the same side, yeah. Kristen, is this the house with the crazy kid's house beside it?
Yes.
Aha, there you go.
Did you want to walk us through the application, Kristen?
Hi, yes.
Okay.
So we're proposing, I'm sorry, 22 ground-mounted solar panels in the back of the properties.
So toward the high tension wires? Okay. Kristen, you still with us?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm reviewing the CAD, they're not showing
I
the
think there's a,
wiring.
I don't know if you can see the plan.
Can you see ours?
Yes. Did you ask about wires?
No, it's just, so the panels are closer to the high tension wires than they are to Cleveland Street, correct? The proposed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Will they be visible from Cleveland Street?
Yes.
Okay.
Rich, what are the- Can we review any bylaw requirements on this?
Really aren't any.
There isn't any.
There really
No,
isn't
okay.
No,
any.
because
Not on
this is
solar.
not for,
Right.
not for residents.
Not for residents? Does it fall into another, does it fall into a category of other things we have to look for setbacks and stuff?
They have to follow the setbacks for the district, but in terms of screening and buffering and all that, so.
Do you want,
Okay.
do you want to address the setbacks? I think you have a sketch A2. Just to confirm what's on the sketch.
Okay. Setbacks from Cleveland Street?
I think you have side yard,
Side,
Rear.
yeah.
Did this require any formal plan or anything like
Yeah.
that?
The site plan is on this, is what they have submitted
So
here.
it's a sketch, but that's not dimension.
you want to see this?
It is? Okay. Oh, okay,
So here's the location.
okay. Thank you.
I don't have the bylaw in front of me on the setback but do you know the setback requirements off the top of your head?
It's 50 feet for the front, 25 feet for side and rear.
Okay, so it looks, Tristan, like you're proposing, the applicant's proposing to be 160 feet from Cleveland Street, 63 and a half, or 63.5, 63 feet, 5 inches from the side, and 126 plus from the rear. Is that accurate as far as you know?
Yeah, it's a perfect square.
Can you hear me?
And we can't hear you, Kristen. We're asking about setbacks.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, I was answering you. I don't know what's going on with my speaker. Yes, those are the accurate setbacks.
All right, so this A2 is accurate, okay.
Correct.
And then on A-2.1 on that sketch,
Perfect square block.
do you know the height?
Yeah, it is. They all were down there. It's kind of interesting when they were developed.
Okay.
You said the height?
Yes,
I mean,
Yeah.
maybe a foot or two difference.
there's a note that says it
I'll make a folder. I don't see the.
shall not exceed 8 feet, but I don't know what the height is.
6 feet.
6 feet.
The height, okay, thank you. Thank you. And just so the board, go ahead.
Do we have an idea of elevation change from Cleveland Street out to the back where they are? Does it go up? Does it go down? Is it flat? Just curious. For some reason, I'm hot, and as I can remember, it's like a perfect square, perfect flat lot. Is that about right? All the way out to the high
That-
tension wires?
Yeah, that's what we're showing.
Okay. Okay,
And I think you indicated this would be visible from the street?
yeah, it will be.
Correct, yes.
Do we, would the applicant consider any screening?
Let's find out. Kristen, for this one, would the applicant consider screening it from view from the street?
I can take it back to my design team and see if they're willing to move that, if that would change our, our kilowatts. But
Yeah,
I don't
mean,
see why
I-
they
don't have to be-
couldn't
you
run
don't have to be
it
that
that way
close to
and
it
see
either.
if it,
No, you don't even have to be that close to it. I think you could put like a 6-foot stockade fence or something like that, even in front of it, and you wouldn't even see it,
Right. Or even some green.
Or even greenery or anything of that sort, but you could be a good, 10, 15 feet away or more and not really come in
No,
contact
I think you're
or
on the other
change
side of the street.
the photovoltaics
Right.
to it, so.
We've had other applicants screen.
Go
here.
back to Google.
I'm not sure it's super visible given
No, it
their
looks-
landscaping.
Looks like it's got trees and bushes.
Here.
None of that's
Yeah.
really shown here.
It's not shown, are you on,
It's on Google
Google or
Maps,
something?
yeah.
Place
Looks like it's got-
plans,
Is that a barn?
Site visit, but there's a barn back there.
It's behind the barn.
That's the house. and
Oh,
so
so-
there's-
oh, so you,
And then
so,
there's a
yeah,
fine
I'm thinking the other side of the street. So the high tension wires are across the street from Cleveland. So you're kind of the, I think they grow all kinds of herbs and stuff, if I remember
Yeah, this
correctly,
is,
okay.
Old farm instead of the.
Yeah, okay,
There's already a lot of cover there, isn't
Yeah,
there?
it looks like.
yeah, it does.
Yeah,
I think you'll probably be fine. They're putting it out in the back then.
yeah, it looks like, okay, we have, Kristen, forgive, we're looking at the Google map and whatever, so it looks like there's already a lot of natural cover right near the
Right.
street and a small barn or something.
Mhm.
So I don't really know.
Is this going to the right of the house if you're facing it, or to the left, or?
It looks like just to the left, behind that.
if you're facing the house to
Did
the
the
left.
neighbors have to get?
So the
To
barn
left of
you
the
can
barn. Is
see
it behind the
that-
barn?
Yeah, the
Well, behind-
barn's the rectangle right there.
Yeah,
Next to the
Okay,
driveway.
you're not gonna see it.
This guy.
yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna see it.
You're not gonna see it
Looks
at
like
all.
it's hidden in the back.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty well already gonna be, if it's behind that barn and way out behind the house, with all this foliage here.
They even have.
Right, for the most part.
Plans.
Yeah, but there will be some visibility, I think.
Right.
How elevated is it proposed to be? How high?
6
feet
feet
max.
the top.
Yeah.
You want me to bring up?
Will there's like a farm stand there, is it gonna impact the
Town.
location of the farm stand? Because that could block it,
Gonna bring it
so.
up,
Okay.
but it's
Yeah.
a street.
Sometimes we get an aerial view.
No, really, that's what he's got here. Everything's gonna block it,
Yeah.
in reality.
That's good, that's
You
good.
got some good substantial growth and everything out front.
It's the only view, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I got-
Yeah, looking at the satellite view, it's
Okay,
pretty,
thank you.
They have a pretty deep lot, too.
yeah, it's pretty.
It's not the one, it's not,
I'm not-
that's
I'm
not,
seeing-
Pretty
that-
covered.
That's not
that's
represent-
not accurate.
No, it's not accurate?
No,
No,
the
go to
lot
business.
size.
See the business link?
So the
That's what
barn-
I'm
Do
saying.
we have the dimensions of the array
We usually get like an aerial or something.
on the application?
Yes.
What do they have as a back?
Yeah,
125 feet. This lot's
Yeah.
long.
Okay.
then just put in,
I'm not sure what these
so
dimensions
you
are.
agree.
I'm not sure
Put
what
in
this
some-
box is. Is it really
Yeah,
a
I
box?
think it's just,
They will
I
allow
think.
that.
Kristen, can
they
you-
Just used it as.
We
a-
have the,
Yeah.
we have the setbacks, we have the location, we have the height. I just don't know if we have the dimensions of the proposed array.
Okay, I'm looking through.
And then,
My
see the 4 boxes up here? On the top, yep. Like that. And then select the top one there. imagery. Says
I can't say
imagery,
I'm
note
familiar
down,
with the property.
That's the house.
then open that, open that window and then pull it over. The whole.
Krista, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm sorry, I'm
Oh.
reviewing the
No, you
plans.
got
Okay.
over here, I
I don't know if you can help us out with the proposed dimensions of the solar array.
think. And then pull, and then just bring it over.
Okay. There
There you go.
So a better plot plan or something.
Looking at
It's
page
just too-
A dash two
Yeah,
point
it's too
one.
small.
I just don't,
Yeah.
I mean, we wouldn't want, I just wanted to find it.
With the red.
It's guesswork. at
There's
no
a,
many.
there's a little graph on the left-hand side.
This is,
Showing dimensions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, all right. I know there. This is all Jane Paul's.
It appears the total area is 431 square feet.
And where are you seeing that?
Way down in the array
In the
detail
notes- in the notes?
specs on the
Yes,
side
that's why I was-
of,
Okay.
Rich?
On the drawing.
What's that?
yeah, this
That's
is
the emphasis.
bottom
This is
left
property.
of the
20.
A2.
No, it's not.
No, the A2
We
one.
don't have
Two
the
one-
official
yeah,
setbacks. in here.
Okay,
Supposedly,
okay, 431.4.
the way I would read these are the
22 by
setbacks,
19.6, thank you.
but
Okay.
they're not,
Oh,
it's not the actual,
actual
you
property.
see what I'm
But they
saying?
may be the real
But these are
setback.
the real
Okay,
setbacks, yeah.
Okay, here we have one,
Yeah,
we have the actual dimensions of the array.
okay.
Total area 431 feet, 22 by 19.6.
Oh,
Where
see,
were
this is
22 by
where you're
19.
gonna be sad. So they are actually in the 615 meeting.
That's the picture.
Yeah, that's the plot.
All right, thank you.
It's a treasure hunt.
I didn't get that far. I tried everything else.
See, that's what happens when you go
Does
on
the board have
vacation.
any other questions?
Oh, so,
So it's just the array, there's no proposed exterior lighting or anything like that?
No, nothing like that.
it sits in the middle of the rest.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, I do have, Mr. Chairman. Is
Go
this
ahead.
is this all for the homeowner's own use, the electricity, or is it one of those, I guess, somehow integrated with the electrical network?
I'm sorry?
Is this for the homeowner's use, this generated electricity, or is this part of the, attached to somehow the electrical grid?
It's attached to the electrical grid.
Okay,
But it's primarily,
For the
it's
homeowner.
designed
Right,
for
right,
the
right.
homeowner
Right.
in
For the
mind.
homeowners,
Right.
yes.
Not to really exceed what their use is.
No.
Yeah.
It's not for a commercial.
Yeah,
purpose.
it's not for commercial purposes, it's for them only, realistically.
right.
Okay,
Correct.
okay.
Okay. Any other questions by anybody on the board?
Nope.
None? Okay. If there's a motion to close the hearing, I entertain that.
Where's that thing right there? Let's see. So I'll make a motion that we close the hearing. So 71 Cleveland Street for the application, special permit for a ground-mounted photovoltaic system.
I second that?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Kristen, thank you very much.
Thank you guys so
Have-
much.
Have a good night, thank you.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, appointments. We have two scheduled appointments, and in the room, we have Susan Jacobson, our Affordable Housing Director. So Susan, if you want to join us, that'd be wonderful, and come join us. I know you had a late night last night, and you're here again tonight, so we won't keep you till 11 o'clock.
Oh, not at all, thank you. Spreading out. Thanks.
So just by way of introduction, I think Susan's here tonight to address both 194 Main Street and 35 Pine Street. I think the board's going to be asked at some point to sign some regulatory documents, and I thought it would be best if Susan gave us a little bit of an overview of what it is we'll be eventually asked to sign. And it may be more clerical and administrative for the board than substantive, but I'd rather hear that from Susan. So go right ahead.
Great, thanks for having me this evening. So I am going to be the lottery agent for both projects, the residents at Norfolk Station and Pine Street. And I have been working with attorney Mike O'Shaughnessy, Mass Housing, the monitoring agent that's been assigned, which is Neighborhood Works Housing Solutions. And we're actually, the monitoring agent and I are meeting on Monday morning regarding these two projects. We'll be reviewing, she's received from Mass Housing the Affordability Monitoring Service Agreement letter, the Affordability Monitoring Service Agreement, the Affirmative Fair Housing Marketing Plan, which I produce, and the Affirmative Fair Housing Marketing Plan checklist and certification. So I'm here for two reasons tonight. Oftentimes, with different board members, those items would be reviewed and approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals in the past. I'm not sure that anybody fully understood how it worked, that Mass Housing is really the approving agency of these documents, and we can't move forward until the monitoring agent gets the check from Mass Housing that says you're good and you're clear. So I would ask that the board certainly have the ability to view those documents once we have been given the clearance, and that maybe after reviewing them and looking at them, we could consider having the board come in and sign a regulatory agreement, but not having to hold another hearing for that, because it's really just, it's really out of the board's purview at this point, once it goes to Mass Housing.
So is it to say this is just a procedural step that we'll see, that, the procedures going forward, nothing out of the ordinary?
Correct.
You said documents may come back to us after they've been vetted by the state and by yourself.
And the monitoring agent.
Right, and once they're
Right, so I'll put a complete package together for everybody, which you'll have ability to see all of those documents. And you'll have the regulatory agreement, you'll be able to view that. And then I would just ask that, it probably will happen the end of next week or the beginning of the following week. Once we have everything buttoned up, that Rich be able to notify the board, here are the documents, please review. If you have any questions and comments, certainly we want to hear from you. And that the regulatory agreement at that point be able to be signed, so that we don't have to wait.
We're not revisiting the entire,
Correct.
right, the
Correct.
entire decision and so forth.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that it goes to the state to get approval, even before we get to see it and speak on it.
Well,
Is that,
the
am I
permits-
hearing you correct?
The permit's issued by, obviously, this board issues a special permit, and then it goes to Mass Housing, who assigns, if you will, is really my boss on the project, Mass Housing. Or that I'm following all of the rules and regulations development, and that my affirmative fair marketing plan is fair and equitable to everybody that enters the lottery. So I think what I'm saying is, well, certainly comments are appreciated. I'm not sure that this board could change really the meat and potatoes of the Mass Housing documents. So, for example, in the special permit, it speaks to you reviewing and approving the monitoring agent agreement. That monitoring agent agreement is between Mass Housing and the monitoring agent.
So, I'm not following it completely, because if we're the licensing board that is over it in reality for Norfolk, then we should have some say before it gets approved by the state.
You do. In your special permit, you're issuing conditions,
Okay,
okay? So all of those conditions have to be followed.
okay.
Okay, I'm not, and I don't want to imply you don't have say, certainly if you have comments and input.
I'm not saying we're gonna have it.
But what I'm saying is, there are rules and regulations that I have to work within when I write an affirmative fair marketing plan
Gotcha.
to submit to the state, or it won't be accepted by the state. If I don't gather all of the information and provide all of the information that's required, the monitoring agent won't approve it. The monitoring agent's agreement to oversee what I do as a lottery agent is between the monitoring agent and Mass Housing. So while you'll have all those documents available to you when they're once they're approved and signed by Mass Housing, I guess what I'm trying to do is say, here's everything, take a look, but I'm trying to avoid, bumping things out for another meeting or two, because the regulatory agreement is the item that you need to sign, and those are very, specific and clearly spelled out. They're really almost the same, except the new development is added in, the number of unit changes, but it's still a regulatory agreement that's written by the powers that be at the state.
So,
The regulatory agreement incorporates the comprehensive permit decision that this board makes and then a couple of other documents.
I understand that. My concern is, and I deal with this through multiple programs across the state because we manage condos. We have a couple of condo projects in a nearby town that have had affordable housing in them. But for one reason or another, the regulatory housing agent didn't get back to them in time, and all of a sudden now it's fair market
So,
units.
I think
My
what-
fear is, I don't want the terminology that they had in, if we can avoid it, so that,
So that doesn't, that would be the deed restriction, and there were some issues with deed restrictions that were done years ago.
Okay.
Where they were not in perpetuity. And so the units, it did not say that this property was deed restricted in perpetuity. So what happened is those units came out and off of the SHI, and they lost their affordable restriction. Our deed riders are all in perpetuity now. That they caught on with that and with what happened, and that change has been made.
that was my biggest
Right.
concern, when all of a sudden I hear that it's between you and the state for the most part. Well, I'm sitting here going, all right, I got stuff in the back of my head that says, there's
Isn't
issues.
there still a mechanism though in the ownership units that if they don't sell within a timely manner to a qualified buyer, that they can come out of the program?
So they remain deed restricted, but they can go to a non-buyer, but the restriction is very proper. If they cannot locate an eligible buyer, a buyer that fits all of the qualifications within 90 days, they are able to offer that unit to a non-eligible buyer, so somebody outside of all of the limitations, but it remains a deed-restricted property. So where that person may get that property for significantly less than another property in the same development, they can't turn around and sell it in 2 or 3 years for local market rates. It still remains deed restricted.
Okay.
Now, in a neighboring town, they had exactly what you're speaking about, and they were able to work with the state and get many of those units back onto the SHI.
Yeah, we got 1 out of 12.
Okay.
It
Might be
was
different
bad.
towns, we might be talking about different places, but,
I was in Canton,
Just
so.
from a practical standpoint, just to, off the beaten path, does that happen very often, that a non-qualified person, they
So-
can't follow?
no, I've been doing this for 12 years, and
Yeah.
we have not had that happen
Okay,
yet.
I was gonna say, boy, that defeats the whole, not the whole purpose, but a big part of the whole thing.
But what you don't want, the reason that they offer that option is because if you have an affordable buyer that's ready to move on, you don't want to tie them to having to stay in that property
No,
because
I
they
understand,
can't
you
find
want,
an
you want,
eligible
you
buyer.
want commerce to
Right.
go on, I understand
Right.
that, right.
I think maybe once or twice during the last recession I saw it. It doesn't happen often.
Yeah.
We haven't had it happen yet here in
Okay.
Norfolk.
It's crazy.
Jody, anything else you can add to this?
The only other thing I wanted to bring up, if I could, Rich and I, Courtney, I know that you sent Rich an email about the clustering that you, on some of
The lawyer had 2 questions,
Right.
and so I was just asking if there's a response to it.
So I have reached out to the developer, and the monitoring agent and I.
Wasn't too bad.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but we are going to speak to him about potentially moving one of the units. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up to the group, Rich and I have had conversation about it recently, is, we put these maps up and we highlight where the affordable units are, right? And the people in the audience are able to see where the affordable units are. And while I understand that you want to make sure that the affordable units aren't scattered, I would ask that you have faith in the process, if you will, and the people that are working within the process, because I'm going to make sure that they're scattered. The monitoring agent's going to make sure that they're scattered, and Mass Housing is going to make sure that they're scattered. What I don't want to see is, I don't want to see residents addresses put up on screens in meetings that identify these units as affordable units. I don't identify them in my lotteries, I don't identify the numbers, I just identify them as properties. Because we do receive often telephone calls and people want to know if a home is affordable. And while it's public information, I don't release that information if somebody wants to do the research on their own and find that out. But I think that the buyers do have a right to some privacy when it comes to their properties being shown on screens in meetings and them being listed as affordable units.
Sure.
Yeah, I think
Completely
it's nice
agree.
that you respect that just, you're not gonna go out of your way to publicize that. Let
Right.
People wanna,
Right.
right.
Yeah, that never needs to be on the screen. I can see that
And I-
from
and I-
across the room.
I would keep, if it ever was made, I would keep it out, but it would make it a little bit more difficult.
Sure. Makes sense.
Any other questions? None?
No.
Susan, thank
Great.
you.
We'll be in touch for the regulatory agreement.
Well, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I invite you to come back anytime, but, you've educated some of us on this, and, sure.
Anytime.
Well, I'm glad to see that they fixed that little loophole,
Yeah,
if
they
you
Yes,
wanna
they
call it
did.
that.
They did.
It's a while now. It's quite a few years now. isn't
It is.
When's the lottery scheduled?
You have a draft date.
Probably
Yeah,
in the
but,
winter.
I mean,
We're dealing with
this
some
was a
of-
fairly,
bunch.
this was a fairly,
Drowning
Get
in
ready.
lotteries.
Oh, my.
And I'm sure more are coming.
Man, bless
Thank
your
you. I will
heart.
tell you, this was a
2005,
far more
somewhere in there.
exciting topic than the planning board last night.
Susan, have a good
No,
night,
I
thank
know.
you.
2000, actually, I think it was 2006
No.
that the development was done.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there going,
Exactly.
how would they
Nice
have
having
let
some
that
experience
drop
we have on
through
this
the
board.
cracks like that it wasn't on the deed or something?
No, I agree, I agree.
It's
No, I
on the
agree.
master
All right,
deed
Richard,
because it's a
Rich,
condo
I'm sorry,
fee. but-
town planner updates.
Well, we're just
We're just kibitzing back and forth.
convinced about.
No, but now you're on, town
Not the
planner.
Oh.
You interrupted yourself.
He
All
did.
right. So,
Thank you.
Elaine's produced a hard copy of the
Mhm.
decision for 269-273 Dedham Street.
Mhm.
So I'd like you to review it and then vote on it. Chris, did you happen to hopefully take a look at the last meeting and
I did,
minutes
yeah.
and so forth?
I
Okay.
did.
So what we'll do for you is we'll have you sign the document in terms of if you looked at it, because I figured you did, and I put your name on the decision.
Yeah, I
so
saw that.
I took a leap, right? But you
Leap
know,
of faith.
leap of faith. It was good. So if you don't have any,
The only thing that changed from the one that you sent to us were the conditions?
yeah. So
Okay.
the only one from what I sent you before was the conditions about the,
Yep.
in terms of the.
I'm
what did
okay
I say
with it.
there?
And just for the record,
Right.
but did you have any other town planner updates as the board goes through this?
I do have updates, but I was gonna hit the decisions first.
That's
or-
fine,
Is that all right?
sure. I'll just gonna aside so I don't interfere with your deliberations.
It's kind of fresh in my mind, then we'll come back. So you don't mind. All right.
I didn't see anything on that out of place when I read through it. The only thing he added, he
Right,
added the
so I'm
two
reading the-
conditions
right.
at the end.
Yeah, so there was no problem with the, including vehicle cleaning,
No, they didn't have any issue with, I just remember it was a safeguard, because I don't want,
okay,
Don't want
Get-
them to get in trouble.
okay.
we don't want them cleaning vehicles because of where it is in terms of.
Yeah, there's
So,
wetlands out in the back of it.
Yeah.
Easier to say that they knew better if you told them that they knew better in the decision.
Right.
If it magically appears someday,
Right.
Yeah.
it's already there. We totally told you guys.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't remember us specifically talking about this during
You are right now.
the, okay, all right.
So
So
this-
we're slapping on, as we can, the conditions we want to put on.
Yeah, and
it.
we talked with her on the
Melissa
Zoom,
was
Melissa, and she
indicated
was, they don't do that.
Okay,
We are
okay.
deeply concerned about unanticipated stormwater, impacts on a site that
Yep.
doesn't have stormwater mitigation.
Mhm.
It doesn't sound,
Discussion's
it doesn't
there.
sound like they do cleaning or anything there.
Well,
Elsewhere.
Yeah, now
They
I
have
understand. Okay,
They
now-
have every action
They do.
place. She was fine with it, so. My biggest concern was that the 45 was okay with her, and she was fine with the 45, so.
Yeah, and we had recommended, she asked for less at first, right? And we-
I think at first, they had asked for like 32 or something, and we suggested to go higher than that. And she came back with 40, and I think one of them came back after that and they said 45. I think that was where the 45
well,
came from.
Suggested they go higher than they
Yeah.
thought that they would
Right.
need, so that they don't have to come back soon.
And that's the number we're gonna hold them, you know, there's a
Now,
number
now
we're
we have to
gonna
hold it,
to,
now
so-
we hold it to 45. This permit's good until 2028, so you got 6 years, and if you grow by leaps and bounds like you think you're going to, I don't even know if 45 is gonna be enough, but they're gonna have to open another site somewhere else,
Yeah, they,
you know?
Yeah, they had said
good.
this covers all of eastern Massachusetts, right?
They said it covers all of
They-
Massachusetts for the whole thing. This is the only
This is the only one in
Carvana
Mass,
in
I think.
Massachusetts.
Yeah,
Well, they-
okay, right.
Yeah,
I wonder if they have like one in New Hampshire or something, like Nashua or
would.
something.
I think, I could have sworn it was national in that meeting, like in Norfolk.
No, it's just Massachusetts.
It is,
Just
yeah.
Mass.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
strictly Mass, I think,
Right.
because there's,
I mean, I know the
from
national
what I
coverage, but this
understand
one's-
from a good friend of mine who's a car salesman, he says each state has like different regulatories. And
Makes
so
sense, right, right.
you kind of, when you get permitted for a state, and then you go to the next
Right,
state.
right, right.
And you don't really cross the lines unless you absolutely
Yeah.
think you can get away with it.
I'm just thinking about the car has to be delivered to Williamstown, Mass, all the way.
Right.
to-
Yeah, they do, but they do that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, I thought we were the only one nationally.
no, I didn't think that would be.
No,
No,
They're-
not
she's
this
out of
one.
Arizona, so they're all over the southern coast, I think.
No, this
Well,
is the
I'm
one.
glad they took
Yeah.
up
so
home here.
my question is, I may be misunderstanding, but it sounded like they were
Yeah,
just
so
going to park or locate.
This will be not him here,
Commercial
though.
vehicle portion,
is,
which is the car transporter? Or
Yeah,
are
Yeah.
they gonna have these
Carvana, yeah.
other cars there as well?
They have other cars there as well. They have the cars that they are in transition. The cars that are there are already pre-sold. They came from another place that are already pre-sold. They come here, and then they get distributed from there. This is like
They're still on these vehicles, or are they off these vehicles?
they're off.
Read it, they were just getting a permit to park these commercial vehicles.
That's what the,
mostly the
that's-
commercial vehicles, but then they have a couple of cars that are
Okay.
going to be there, they're going to stay the night there before they go on to their next
yeah,
destination.
for the most part, they're coming
So that's
in.
what she was talking about, maybe there's some light dusting or dust removal
Yeah.
or
Right.
something, okay.
They have, I think it was like 3 or 4 9-car transports that come and go, and they stay there sometimes, but for the most part, they're 1-car carriers.
Yeah.
Those 9 drop the cars, and then they take the singles out to wherever they need to go.
Giving it to the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like if you ever go by the gas station over there, you can see the coming and goings of this place.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they're all, I've been everywhere in Massachusetts lately, and I see them all over the place, so, and they're all coming out of Norfolk. I'm like, wow. I know
No
where you-
vending machine.
Taxing him
Yeah,
enough?
no
Wait a
vending
minute.
machines, that's right.
No vending machine.
Although I see nothing wrong
All right,
with it.
No,
so,
that's-
I don't see anything wrong
That's
with
so
it.
good.
someone want to make a motion and second, and then,
All right, one second. So.
I need a
oh,
motion for this.
and-
Yes, yes.
No, we didn't, okay.
So I make a motion that we approve the special permit for excuse me, let me get the address right, 269 Dedham Street for the for the approval to store more than one commercial vehicle within the commercial one on-highway zoning district. Hold on one second.
Do I hear a second?
No, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You don't need a other vote type,
No, now we just need to sign one, right?
so which one do we sign?
According to the original.
You have,
I
good
need
job.
So you didn't need to do a roll call, because you're all in the room.
That's right,
Tonight.
they're all right here.
By the way, that was
Okay.
71 Cleveland.
Yeah, and honestly,
Yeah.
they're gonna be putting it back here.
Back there, yeah.
Yeah, so you'll never see it from
Yeah.
the street.
It's like like right in here. I think it was a little bit off from this spot.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's like right
Okay.
Yeah,
there.
okay. Yeah, that makes, that's not bad.
They're probably
we
gonna
wanna-
drop some trees.
You'd have to a little bit,
Yeah, I
that's
wouldn't-
still big enough, plus you just wanna take away
Shift
from.
gears over
Which one
to,
was that PV cell system that you looked at earlier?
so there's two
I
other
did not
decisions.
catch it. I did not see.
It's on the drawing, I know.
Two other decisions for you to deliberate on. The first one is 117 Main Street, which is for the town of Norfolk Fire Station, for the buffer reduction. In terms of just kind of give you information, you know, there was a buffer request, also a variance
Chris, are you not
request.
signing this?
Yeah, I am signing it.
Yeah, pass it back. Goes to Chris.
And in terms of the variance, there is options being explored, of which
I don't know why I would probably go.
either one gets
You were
done
busy
with,
signing this.
then the variance would go away. So there'll be no need for a variance. One option is to, within the purview of the planning board through the site plan process, provide some screening and meet the intent of that provision of the zoning bylaw. And the second one I'm working on with the planning board, just have to put the final map together, is just to extend the B1 zoning district across the property into the church, the Federated Church, just a little bit, so it technically doesn't abut a residential district. I've been in communication with the church, the Federated Church, and they're okay with that. I'm waiting for confirmation, but I had a review with town council. Their initial concern was rezoning the property. They didn't want to preclude themselves down the road of maybe creating a residential lot if need be, for financial purposes to keep for the church. So this little extension into the church property would not affect them in that sense, and then would eliminate the whole buffer between the church, really parking lot, and the fire station.
So if the lot lines, if the lot lines are changed, it's a transfer, and the applicant picks up some more land, they'd be picking it up in the residential zone.
So there's gonna be no land, it's just the district change,
Oh,
no
the district
land.
change.
Yeah, it's just a district, so we're just floating it over.
Oh, okay.
It's it's a crafty way to
Right.
solve
Well, the place is over.
an issue. In terms of effectively, it's good intention, but in terms of the purposes of intent of it, I mean, really didn't. And quite frankly, it's not a good idea to run a buffer up to Main Street when you're trying to construct a new fire station. You wanna make sure you have clear line of sight, so.
Right.
It's like coming out against the children.
So those two paths are being followed, and I think that'll be taken care of. So the town of Norfolk, through the chair of the fire building committee, is granted an extension through the end of the year, the end of 2022. So it's
So is that both for the variance request and the special permit?
just the variance. But they would like the board to act on the special permit, which I think everybody was comfortable with.
We were.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so that, will take care of that matter
Sure.
tonight. So I did draft a decision. I didn't change that one at all. from
You
what-
didn't change that one at all?
No, I didn't change
Hey,
it.
good. I
Nothing.
read that one, that one
All
sounded
right.
good.
Has everybody had an opportunity to review the draft decision?
I haven't, but if I could quickly look at it.
Okay, go right ahead.
What's that? Yeah.
You have a printout of it?
Yeah,
Oh,
so,
you do, okay. It's not in the folder that we got for tonight, is it?
The special permit is, I
It
think.
is? Let me double check. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has to do with the setbacks, the 50 to 30.
No, I remember the discussion.
Yeah, so it's.
Okay, I have
It's
it.
got a
I'm in the folder.
519 date on it.
I now have it, thank you, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Got it right now.
I did some last minute tweaking on the next one, just. I'll go over it though.
so Rich, it says, number 2, the applicant proposes to reduce setback from 50 feet to 30 feet to locate parking area, driveway, and vehicle circulation area and access way abutting residential zone. So that's 50 feet, 30 feet,
50 feet, 230?
30 feet,
52, 30, right?
52, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's dropped from 50 to 30.
The reason why, and they can't go any, essentially, they can't go any less than that because the buffer requirement through the planning board has a minimum dimension of 30 feet.
Right. The 30 feet has to be vegetation in
Yeah.
reality, so
And
they
so-
can't pave that.
But this only requires a special permit for that?
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
The other
The-
one's the buffer itself.
Right.
The buffer itself.
Right.
What's
But
in the buffer?
that's not on our table tonight.
No.
Not on our table for tonight.
Yeah.
Another, and kind of the other piece of that buffer requirement, through the planning board that is, they can supplement existing vegetation
Mhm.
Right.
to meet the intent of that, so.
Right, which would take away what you want, the other thing, it would take away the other thing we might do. There's two options here, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They're definitely-
There's really
they're-
three
well-
options.
Or is it
Yeah,
both?
there's three options
Oh,
really,
okay.
but so, not to confuse the matter, but,
Sorry.
so there's doing some supplementing and adding new plants next to the residence,
Mhm.
next door, I forget the address of, the single-family home.
Yep.
And then they have plantings along the church side to the back of the site and then it comes down. It was really the issue where the swale was up closer to Main Street. That was really the issue in terms of that.
Right.
But, again, we're gonna try to do it through the planning board
Mhm.
and then hopefully town meeting would agree to make the zoning change so it really goes away completely. It really isn't the need to do any plantings at all. On the side where the residence is, Bob had gone out and myself with the architect and team, said, look, this is a fire station, so they're holding it back off of Main Street
Of course,
because
line of sight.
it kind of defeats the purpose, right?
Right.
Plant trees and then you can't see coming out of the fire station, it's, kind of, this is one of those things where, zoning doesn't work in every scenario, right?
Right.
Good intention, intent, but kind of locked in. So anyway, this is the,
And also, we have the application.
to the end of the year on the variance.
Great. Yeah, I spoke to someone at the church who said they were looking into getting this, they were supporting, I guess, doing this.
Yeah, so since the last time you met, and this time I was in communication with Don Hanson,
Don
who you
Hanson,
know
yeah.
well,
Yep,
former ZBA member, who,
Yep.
for those who don't know him. And then was in contact, and he was in contact with Jim Lehan, who was a former select board member, trustees of the church.
right.
Kind of went through talked to Don and what the church's original concern. I think, sometimes the most important thing is sit down and have a conversation, and then you can kind of figure it out,
Mhm.
which I won't get into that detail of why I wasn't part of that. But anyway, need where it is. So we came up with a way to handle all things concerned, because they support the fire station, they support this concept, so,
That's great.
yeah.
So my recollection was when we had the hearing, obviously the fire station itself is a big topic for the town for a lot of
Yeah.
reasons. But from a zoning standpoint, my recollection was that there was nobody that voiced opposition to either of these. There was concern by abutters to the rear, I believe.
Right.
And I
Right.
think their concerns were gonna be more addressed at planning board.
Although they didn't come to I don't know what, they didn't come to the public hearing.
They made their points here about,
They did, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
but I don't think
Was
it
it
was
more of a
really.
noise concern?
I think it was all of it. I think they just.
Yeah, it was more of a visual, I
I
thought.
think it was a visual.
Well, some noise, don't get me wrong.
Noise.
Right,
Just
just the
the-
trucks
the-
going around the back and.
Yeah, and, hours of operation, things could happen any time of the day, obviously.
But I just don't want to lose sight of what we had in front of us publicly that night.
Okay.
Rich, could you just, I've been listening to a lot of this. When you're driving down Main Street, you don't want any obstruction that obscures the view of the fire engines coming out of those stations. We're not getting into that situation, are we? Because they come out of there ready to go.
No, we're not.
We're not putting trees and bushes in
No,
the way
no,
of.
no.
No.
And also,
That was concern with the
We
the
can't
house
obscure
abutter.
So
anything.
what we have in front of us, we've been asked to grant a variance, so they wouldn't have to do that.
Right, that's what
Whether
I,
or
that's
not
what
they
I
met
was.
the criteria variance, one can debate. But the applicant has said, has submitted an extension, that we don't have to act on that till the end of the year. Otherwise, we'd have a timeline that we have to act on.
Right.
And I think Rich is.
And there's a town meeting in between that time that they're gonna may settle it because of a zoning change.
All right.
So,
Well, at
I
that same
just-
town meeting, you'll be voting on
You know,
the fire station too.
trees and
Right.
bushes at the back
Right.
of the building don't
And
concern me.
also, if
but
it
in
didn't
front-
go, if that didn't come forward and the variance was denied, if it's approved, it's approved. If it was denied, the bylaw, it could still go to planning board under a special permit, and they could waive that provision for those plantings.
Yeah, the path is to try to get that addressed to the planning board now, so.
Right.
Even before you get to town meeting, this is squared away. Belt and suspenders really
Right.
is the zoning change,
Right.
to put that
So
in
we don't have to
there.
act on it tonight
No.
if we don't want to. In fact,
The
we-
setback we do.
the setback we've been asked,
Yeah.
we don't have an extension on that.
Right.
We haven't been granted an extension, so,
And it also, the setback
but I think that's helpful to
determines
town meeting.
how they go forward too
They're
with
trying to
their,
vote
with
at
their
town
site
meeting, so they
plans and
wanna know,
everything.
right.
Yeah, that request does tie into what
It does.
being
Sure.
proposed.
So that's important for town meeting.
And this setback, you mentioned the homeowner behind it, they weren't concerned about this setback, were they?
I don't think they, unless someone
No,
else has a
they
different
weren't,
recollection.
not the side,
That's not
this,
the
because
side,
this is
right,
a
right.
side,
Right,
so
okay.
it really didn't affect them, and they weren't concerned with that. They were concerned more of
To the rear of the property.
property. Yeah. There's because of the big rock or something there was something, there was gonna be a elevation change, and that's what they were really more concerned with, if I remember correctly.
They have my computer. Sorry. Can't get in my stuff.
Okay.
So there, you know,
Yep, just because, Joe, I don't know if you had an opportunity to get through
No,
the.
I have.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on the special permit application? Would someone like to make a motion?
So I go to the top here, I can make that. Right, I make a motion that we approve the special permit for 117, is it 117?
Yep.
117 Main Street. I just want to get some detail on that, hold on.
Yep.
I'm trouble scrolling this.
It's about twice the value.
You have that in front of you? That's what
I do.
That's all right.
It's right
Just the
there,
front
yeah.
page, the front page.
Yep.
Right.
It's all right.
So make a motion that we approve the special permit for 117 Main Street
Time it's built.
for the setback from 50 feet to 30 feet for vehicle circulation, adjacent to the zoning district, zoning district, right? Said, I'm making a mistake here.
No, you can refer to that section.
Okay. All right, so what is it?
That's, because you put up the application.
So I make a motion that we approve the special permit for 117 Main Street for the setback as requested,
Contract with our neighbors.
affected by section 14B1A and 14B1C.
No, that's, you
Oh.
don't want, that's,
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can fix
okay, so
that.
we're gonna stop, okay.
Let's
so-
start one more time.
Alright.
So I make a motion, we accept the special permit for 117 Main Street for the special permit for reducing the property line 50 feet setback to 30 feet. That's it.
Any other discussion?
Would this change if the
Second.
zoning
It's the only piece we
redistricting
need.
changed?
Anyone would like to second that?
Yeah, I mean,
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion?
But the special, would it
All
eliminate
those
the
in
special
favor say
permit?
aye.
Aye.
Because there's still the same setback
It only,
in
yeah,
commercial
would-
to commercial?
if the zoning change would only affect that one property line between the church parking lot and that side,
Okay,
yeah.
Did you vote, David?
yes, I said aye.
Aye.
Very good, thank you. All right.
Do you have a copy that has to be signed tonight?
Yep. So we'll,
Elaine, could I have a pen, please?
Elaine, were you able to publish the June 15th minutes?
For the solar,
Sent them to Joe, and I have them here for signature.
Okay.
22
I got them. You sent them out, I
I
think.
did send them out.
Yeah,
Okay,
you sent
no, I
them out
was-
this afternoon.
Are they not very large?
Yeah,
I wasn't
was
at,
fine
I
with
wasn't
them.
at that meeting, so I'll let others take a look
It's a
at
lot
that.
to read.
I was the acting chair, it looked right.
Yeah, look, no, I looked at
They're
the
right
meeting, I'm sorry to get back to you, Elaine, the meeting, the
Okay.
minutes look fine.
Okay.
The next, you wanna hit the next decision there while you're, was it the Pond Street solar?
Pond
sorry.
Street Solar?
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
That's
Skip
all right.
that. Yep.
All right, who
Love
else
to
has
do
to
that.
sign this? Let's go around.
What did I do?
That one, we just, the Pine Street Solar, we just kind of pushed to tonight for,
Yeah, so you,
because we didn't have everybody, right? Is that why?
yeah, the
needed-
last one,
yeah,
that's
we
right.
needed 10.
Yep, that's correct. So, I'm thinking. Yeah, we didn't have, yeah, we didn't have, we didn't have enough.
We didn't have enough
enough-
to do it,
Enough members, right.
that were actively involved in it
Correct.
from the beginning.
Yep, actively involved. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And since that last meeting, the planning board, so the planning board did just wait for one more signature, but they endorsed the plan, the final plan for the Pond Street Solar, so that's been done, which is referenced in your draft decision. And then on the list, I do know the town's still working towards, working on
Did you-
negotiating the
did you
final
read through that
terms
No,
of the
yeah,
lease.
Okay.
For the Pond Street.
Correct.
That's the
Yeah.
large one, okay.
Yeah. So it's,
Last time, and that's, I remember they were going from us to the planning board.
Right, we had really vetted it pretty well. Or the
You did.
The planning board had.
they made
more
a slight
extensive-
adjustment, we so in this decision, that references that plan that was adjusted, which was done on May 15th. And,
We on the record? I was kind of surprised at why they even made the recommendation that they made, because of the setbacks that are already there. I don't understand why the planning board made them even go further. I
think there was.
didn't understand that.
There was concern, I think, I don't speak for the planning board, but I was at a few of the site visits, and I think there was just some concern that visually, going down Pond Street, at some point, certainly, at some areas, you're gonna see it.
Maybe.
Dramatically. In other areas, it was forested there, and they wanted to
Yeah,
kind of limit the view.
I mean, if
but-
I remember correctly, there was a good 70 feet, and much of the setback was huge.
Right, the setback was huge, large, but when you get further down on Pond Street, there's no vegetation. You're gonna see that area, and they weren't,
Okay.
I think, and then
yeah, it was more concerned for
Okay.
the visual in
yeah,
terms of.
that was, yeah,
So they
that was
they
the,
made that adjustment,
Yep, they did.
planning board, they're okay, planning board voted it, and then they signed it, so.
yeah.
So their appeal period is done as well. So that's all
And I
complete.
think we just held off more.
Yeah, so that way your plans would match
Right.
what they
Right.
had finalized. Right. So we didn't have conflicting plans.
So now we can sign this tonight.
So now you can vote on it
Right,
and sign it.
Yeah.
so
and
do we
then,
have a motion on that one?
I'll read this one much clearer, I promise.
Go
Sorry
right
about the last one. Sorry about the last one. All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the special permit for, I'll read the addresses, 92, 90, 92, 96, 100, 100 Aura Pond Street, and 12 Sharon Ave, to allow a large-scale ground-mounted solar voltaic system in the C1 on and off highway zoning district.
I second that.
Is that better?
Any
That was very
discussion?
good.
Sorry.
Any discussion? None? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll get you signed that one. Now we can go, well, you have the minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I did skip over myself. I can circle back. Sorry.
Why don't we, did you have town planner updates?
Sure, I probably do, but I don't think in particular I have.
Okay.
Yeah, and real quick, everybody read the minutes, by the way?
What's that?
Might as well do it while we got it in our head.
Okay, okay.
Sign.
Has anybody else read the minutes?
I can tell you that
I did.
you
All right,
did, so I did have, at least on the correspondence, there is a notice of violation. We
Yep.
did receive the appeal yesterday, and so that'll be on your August 24th meeting, we changed it,
Right.
24th.
Our next meeting will be August 24th, and
Yep.
I think this notice of violation pertains to 115 Park Street.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
So I think the property owner, has the property owner, that we know, filed an appeal? Is
They
that-
have filed appeals.
Okay, so
Yep,
we'll
that
get to
was
meet with the
yesterday.
property owner.
I guess I will say one thing in the town planner update, we got no responses to the
I
master
saw
plan.
that on Mass Planners.
Zero.
To,
So we had the RFP out
Oh.
for the master plan, and we got 0. So we're gonna approach it in phases. So one is just complete electronic submittal of the responses, no more paper, which, you know, saves paper, which is good, and it's much easier for them too, right? to
How many
do-
copies did you ask for
In the,
in the original RFP?
the original RFP, let me see, I could tell you. I feel like,
Just go with
I
this.
don't think it was a crazy amount, but let's see.
Such thing as a reasonable number, and then there's the number that's,
All right, you're gonna test me.
I mean, we're losing-
Yeah.
Let me see what we did. I
It goes
don't-
with it?
I'm
Okay.
just troubleshooting, where it's just like, what,
Okay, this goes with it.
where
I'm
were
sorry,
the-
this goes with it, I guess.
is
Okay,
it like
sorry.
a $5,000 job to respond to? Or, I know everybody, there's not a lot of capacity right now,
Yeah,
at least not anywhere good,
yeah.
so, there's,
Photovoltaic?
you know, it's been a busy,
oh, yeah.
a lot of Fed
Okay,
funds.
did I pass
It's been
that?
busy,
I thought
yeah.
I passed that one to you. I'm sorry. Yeah, this one didn't have his name on it. Right, his
Well,
name's
the-
not on it.
I'm looking as we're talking, I'll talk and do both. The other big nut was
Signature.
25 copies, hardbound copies of the master plan. so.
Oh,
Do you get did they give feedback on why they,
Yeah, I called them.
Okay.
I called a
He was
bunch
here
of them
for
just
that
to,
then, right?
you know,
Yeah.
say, hey, what,
what turned you off?
yeah, what, you didn't like us? We didn't get anything? Why?
Yeah, he was here
And
for both
so-
of them, so he signed both of these.
So one,
Is it the split appropriation on the budget, that it wasn't all there at one time?
yeah, that was,
That'll wig people out.
yeah, that was,
But it was
another-
55 up front, wasn't it? The bulk of it was up front.
yeah, 95.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's
It was 95.
that's enough to get you,
The thing was, 95 was good, but it was the whole plan, right? So there was concern like, all right, well, what happens, we've committed, we're doing this plan, you go to town meeting, they say no.
well, what was the public participation component? Because the plan only costs so much to write, it's the process that tends to be the cost driver.
I didn't like break down budget by budget, so,
Did you ask for anything, like,
crazy.
yeah, workshops, like, did you put anything crazy, like 18 meetings, even though it's definitely gonna take at least 18 meetings?
I did
If
have,
you didn't budget 18,
yeah,
you're lying to
yeah,
yourself.
no, I did have quite a few,
Do the master plan.
Well, sometimes it depends, because sometimes people have like a really kumbaya vision of what the public process is going to be, which then like is very much a part of the RFP, and depending on what that is, you know, there's certain things that cost money. And like there's 1 year, like 3 years ago, where everybody was really into scientific surveys everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. I don't know why, you know, because it was just like, I mean, we could, you know, you can draw the end, the sample value wherever you really want to. It's just, and so, but it was one of those things where it's just like to get it down to, you know, 100% sampling is a vastly different than to, you know, and so there's things that, you know,
responses, hard copies.
oh, that's not, no, that's normal. That's nothing
Yeah.
crazy there.
Yeah, no, it wasn't crazy, but
No.
I mean,
but you've reached
A
out,
lot of
you've
people
received
just-
yeah, I
feedback.
reached out, so, I just put it out today in listserv just a while ago, and I started getting some I haven't read them yet, but,
Do you think a big part of it was the timing?
yeah, I think the timing definitely didn't help, a little bit, you know? Well, timing, because there was other projects, but also it was July 7th, right before the,
Did you have,
I remember it was in the
were there any
summer.
other active master plans at the same time?
in terms of what, seeking proposals?
Yeah, anybody else who had similar RFPs out at the same time?
They think there was. I didn't see him, but that's what I understand, there was.
I wonder if there was a virtual component. I did see lots of, I guess, stations and sites, you know, where people can put their input, from the library to the town hall to
Yeah,
other the school, other venues. But I was wondering if there was a virtual component.
no, there's definitely a virtual component,
Okay.
yeah.
So where they could, you know, see something online, maybe have something interactive.
So
Can I
we,
just tell you that they're flat out? I mean, it's been a pretty busy year and for
yeah, yeah,
a
well,
lot of
That was
work.
probably absolute, was there any response at all?
no, zero.
Yeah, there was, I mean, they
plus
didn't even, they
COVID
didn't
and
even
all
tell
this
you
other
why.
stuff going on.
They
How
didn't even-
complicated was the response? A master plan response on it is like kind of, you're gonna take at least a week to write that, and so there's some
Oh, really?
staff costs, so it's like one of the bigger ones to respond to. But, and so if you're up against like maybe 3 towns have one out at the same time, and there's something more,
I mean, how many,
but
Bigger budget.
it,
how many master plan writers are there? And
not that.
Let's be realistic, there's probably, what, 4?
Good ones, like good,
Okay.
good firms, it's like 3 to 5 on a given year.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say.
Yeah, the pool's not huge.
No,
I started to get nervous when I saw stuff, people from Texas and like, you know, way out of state looking for it, because I'm like, oh, not that I couldn't do it necessarily, but that logistical thing is just like, I did a smaller project like that, it was okay in the end, but it was definitely a challenge, you know? This, forget it, master plan if you're out of state, but anyway, so we're gonna get back out. 3 weeks was okay, so I was wondering, because I was debating like,
too fast.
they were
Was that
okay
your
with 3
question?
weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks is good.
Yeah, 3 weeks is fine. That wasn't, I think the combination of, there's quite a bit of, you know, stuff out on the street.
Yes.
The timing wasn't, and then there are people working. And then some people have chosen not to do master plans.
I am one of them.
Right. They want to do, I talked to a few of them, you want to do like really something that's more on the implementation side, right? So something that you're going to, you know, maybe it's a housing program, or like the B1 stuff that we changed in downtown, something that's really going to turn into
Some visibly.
a narrow focus. Yeah, you could really drill down.
I was always big on seeing, though, in a plan, master plan, for example, a sidewalk plan or a streetlight plan. I'd like to get the streetlights fixed that aren't working for
Yeah.
a year. But the idea is that there's nothing wrong with identifying where sidewalks, when we did this in the last master plan for Norfolk, there's a map in there somewhere
We
saying,
did.
making connectivity to other sections of town when, against opportunity that might come our way to do that. But there are logistically a lot of connections we should be making point
Affordable housing.
over the next 10 years, I would think.
Yeah.
Because it would connect more of these developments that come
55,000 a
along.
year, it's not
And
affordable.
there's simple links that bring some of these communities together.
Yeah.
Like, communities, these little subdivisions, if you know what I mean.
So the,
Well, if I remember correctly, the last master plan didn't have a whole lot to do with what transpired down on 1A. It was more up here in the center and
Yes.
everything else. And I think the master plan needs to take into that 1A section and everything else, that
it does. Yeah.
it needs to have all that.
But I think the good thing, the plot, so in 2007 was the last one. I mean, there were a bunch of people involved with boards and committees that had a lot of skills and expertise outside,
Yep.
you know, that helped that process. And I think that was the positive side. So then the downside, which Rob Gary was involved with, he had said, we had talked about this in the advisory board, that they talked about hiring somebody to help out. They didn't. They did it on their own, so they got it done, which was great. But some of the stuff that you're talking about, I think that's
So
where.
is there a trend with master plans to keep it as a master plan or to narrow? Is there a trend either way? Is it just town by town?
Well, the master plan has a format that already, like the state basically says these are the chapters that go in a master plan, so you send it to DHCD, and so they're looking for, you know, your elements. It's housing, economic development, land use, transportation and circulation, municipal facilities, recreation, the one about open space, and then the one about historical and cultural resources. And there's probably one in there that I'm missing off the top, but it's like 8 to 10 that you generally do. People are adding climate resiliency to that chapter to it a lot, and then like sustainability it's not currently required, but that's the one that we see more often. And then sometimes there's kind of a communications element, because most municipalities are looking for how can we talk to the public better, because
Right.
you know, 'cause this is nerd stuff. I think if, you know, personally, if you ask me that where the trend and master plan should go, generally speaking, right now we write 200+ page dissertations. They're really dense. They've got all of the facts. They're not very accessible though to the average person. Do I like them? Yes, because I'm a nerd alert and I want to get deep into the data, and unless there's like a really thick methodology section, I'm going to start questioning the math. Most people don't do that though. If we could do it in like 30 pages or less with way more graphics, that's a plan that somebody will actually look at. And if we had consultants that really did it more in the soundbite version of, hey, let's put it on Facebook and run like a 45-second clip of what's your vision for what you want your town to be. Because what people hope to get out of a master plan is like consensus and the central vision of what the town is going to be. And I have never seen a master plan go that way. It is like 2.5 years of everybody slowly and then quickly growing to hate each other like the most. It's like painful. And it doesn't matter how good you do it, it just is how it is. And so it's hard to be visionary and also realistic, because you hear a lot of people, because compromise is frequently required. And a master plan, if you want it to be adopted, is not going to actually get into how you make the compromise. You know, like, I was talking to my mom about this. Her town is doing a master plan. She's like, oh, they sent me a survey. And I was like, you should do it, Mom. And, I mean, one, surveys are fun, and two, like, obviously, and she's just like, well, I would definitely like more affordable housing, but I don't want it to be dense. And I was just like, all right, Mom, the Lord doesn't give with both hands. You know, like, there's no subsidy. It's not, you know, HUD is not coming in. Like, the density is the subsidy. And so, you know, actually getting through that and, like, what, you know, getting past, like, the buzzwords of, we like our rural character. What does that actually mean? And so you don't really see a master plan quite get to that, because it's not possible. I didn't say that as a planner, but that full consensus you don't have that without like excellent leadership and real vision at the top to kind of keep driving that forward. And the same on implementation, because the other thing is that they're 200 pages long and they tend to just, you know, they're dust collectors in the end, and people are like, we spent all this time on it, you know, and I went to meetings for 18 months and then we never did any of it. And that's largely, and every good idea that's like an office acquisition, like that's what you realistically can kind of pull off. And
But
maybe
it also needs to be a living document as well. It's the target changes.
and that's why
quickly.
like they update, but it's
vision
so
for
it's a tough document to make functional, I think,
So
in
did
this
your
day and
master
age.
plan just say, you know, we recognize what a master plan is, but for us, we're going to narrow it to these 3 things as the focus?
Generally speaking, if you have 3 big things that you're going to try to accomplish, those 3 things feed into multiple elements. Like, let's say you're going to do wastewater in the town center. That's going to feed into economic development, housing, and municipal services and facilities, all in one fell swoop. You got several of your required things. And part of the reason that it does municipal services and facilities is because that's the one that also you go over your muni finance and what your outlooks are. And so, because part of it is, you know, you're looking at, you have so much land, it needs to do all of the following things, and it needs to, you know, make enough money to support itself. And so it's kind of, you know, that's like the chessboard that it's all playing on. And so it sounds kind of like an a-hole thing to say, like, you can do 3 things, but realistically, though, those 3 things are, you know, if you put all of your eggs in those baskets, it'll make, you know, a big difference and will translate into all the elements. So that's my planner spiel on it, but we all feel differently about them, and most people are much more positive about what a master plan can do than I am, where I'm just like 2.5 years of bad feelings. But I do think that if you keep it more aspirational and try to rally people around like certain ideas and like why it's good for you, as opposed to like we're going to agree on everything, because that doesn't really exist. I do think that those plans are more successful when it comes to implementation.
I think the visual was the most common feedback I got, is that we wanted more of a visual. What does that look like, you know, so.
They range from like, some people, like, some of them are basically only graphic kind of, like, we kind of refer to it as like the magazine layout. That's kind of the more standard version that we're doing right now. That's not the dissertation anymore, but it's more like when you crack a magazine. And then, but there are some that are basically 100% graphic that I think are kind of neat too. But,
Which one have you worked, like, which one have you had town, and that, like, more graphic, that,
Somerville's is super graphic.
is it? Okay.
And
Take a look at it and see.
Cambridge's did end up being rather graphic. Like, I mean, like, so you start with like who's putting $3 million into their plan, and you know, kind of scale back from there, because like that's where you have also like the street team and the buses of people getting out to talk to the, you don't need to do that. But
Somerville envisioned, like, when they did Assembly Square, was that part of a master plan?
Assembly Square was like 30 years of planning. That was so many different plans. That's urban renewal plans. There's the street tree plan that was done in the 70s.
No, that's like
it's the MBTA. It's
Exploded into a development of some sort, you know, that it is today.
well, yeah. The Green Line extension. All it needed was a whisper of transit.
With a lot of housing and stuff, now they're saying start with pharmaceutical. It's gonna start it.
We all hope, right? Everybody,
See where it goes.
the R&D silver bullet. But
We have R&D.
So if we wanted to have an
The
amusement
lighting
park on
company
Route 1A, we have to go into a master
We have
plan.
R&D.
we're on an America. We're gonna need yours.
I want to just, real, not to go through last night, line by line, but maybe give an overview of what took place last night with the planning board.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Bike
So,
paths.
That's
So
supposed
Bob
to be
Bullock,
in circulation.
came before the planning board last night
People are bike paths in this town, big time.
on the, so the
The zoning change?
The zoning changes was to take, we have the table of allowable use of section D, but then we have B1, C1, C1D, and so forth, and actually merge them into one table. That's, what most communities have out there is one table. You go to one place, you can scroll down,
Right.
got a use, yes, no, special permit. So the project he's been working on for quite a while, presented the planning board for town meeting in the fall, is to do that. And on top of that, he put together, and I think I put on your shared drive, but
You did.
there's multiple, like, if you go retail this, retail that, I mean, consolidate down into one definition. So what he did is he laid it out, so literally if there was an S, he included, right? If there was italics, so just to show and lay it out how multiple definitions of, well, not definitions, but a use type, some were defined, some weren't. But how over the years, it mushroomed over time. And to merge it down and consolidate it, but do it similar, the approach would be similar to what we did with the recodification in the spring. Substantial change. And going through this process, there's a bunch, I know Courtney has sent the email, there's a bunch of things that we need to go back to redefine or change. There's definitely oddities through the bylaw for sure.
Sure.
But not do it at the same town meeting, because we don't want to confuse, again, open town, try to have, here's the plan for the fall, and then come back in the spring and tackle some of the other issues. Like, there's districts on the table that don't even exist.
And just as an overview, last night, I think the planning board went through 46 proposed articles.
Right.
And kind of broke them up into, after a lot of dialogue and back and forth, kind of put them into, or they're working to put them into, I'll call buckets, so that when you go to town meeting, Articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever, these are all insignificant or insubstantial changes, or just so that we can move them forward, and broke them in so that even when you get into debate and discussion at town meeting, you really keep it focused. The idea is to move this forward and let the town not get bogged down in all of them, and say, okay, this does have some minor changes to it. Here's the minor change on these 10 articles. And I like the approach, and the planning board's been working really hard on it with Bob, and it can move this forward in a wonderful way before you kind of drill down into the more difficult things that have morphed over the last 50 years on zoning. I think it's smart to try to get a big chunk of it out of the way without substantial changes.
Correct.
And then maybe if it's next year or whenever, come back and zero in on the hard stuff, just because now we have it in front of us. Right now, if you go through the zoning bylaw, you have at least 3 sections.
And one section will supersede the other, then the uses in the table, allowable uses, and,
Yeah.
And my concern with all of this is, it's wonderful to do all of it. I'm not asking, zoning is always people think of it as looking forward, and you folks are in the planning world looking forward. But kind of where I do things a lot end up historical. And I'm always, whether I'm here or in my own stuff, doing a challenge or a review of a historical use. Is it legal, is it grandfathered? So I don't want to lose these changes because they're also the dates of the changes. I'm not asking someone to go back historically and try to create that. We have notes that you can dig through, but at least going forward, and I think you've addressed that, or you will with the E-code and so forth.
That's good to do. I mean, I remember us having big debates about some of the other grandfathered situations.
Yes.
Right.
yeah. So hopefully that, cross our fingers.
It's a lot,
Yeah.
but the folks that have been, the planning board and Bob and yourself worked through a lot of this last night, and, there'll be a lot for town meeting, and I think a lot of good will come out of it for us and for the town and for developers and whoever else that has to tackle this stuff.
Yeah. No, it'll get this done, will be enormous help to everybody, property owners, like, people want to know what's allowed here and there. It's like a puzzle going back and forth.
And it's almost because Bob's been here for a number of years, I don't know how long, but he has historical knowledge, but,
Right.
and it's his interpretation, but that doesn't always translate well
No.
into the use table.
Yeah, it
So
kind of, when you looked at it last
both
night, you
ways.
look at it, it feels like, yeah, maybe they didn't want to interpret that as a use, so they put it in there. Because they didn't want to take that latitude, it was like, well, we like hardware good sales, but we couldn't just say retail sales, so we had to define it. Maybe we don't like that. I don't know, it's interesting. There might be somebody around to kind of get the history of how this.
What era is this? Because that was the overly prescriptive, lampshade maker, and then,
Yeah.
Right.
like the overly, there's a definite era of that went on until I think like the 90s, and then people were like, let's not do that, let's switch over to retail, like personal services, professional services, because it gets outdated and you can't update often enough to deal with, the fact that we don't really have night
So
watchmen.
there's some blocks of times so 68 was a big year in town in terms of really the zoning. It was really, probably 20 pages before that, and then it really grew in 68. A bunch of stuff in the 87, early 90s, and then there's period of time when I think it was the 90s when we got into the C1, the separate district. I'll have to go back, but you're right. I mean, it's
The
some odd-
itemized uses definitely scream an era.
oh yeah, they did.
I
Yeah.
think if you go way back, I think there was a bylaw in the 40s, and I think that was overturned because of it wasn't noticed right. And I think in 1958, and then we get into a discussion about restatement or the whole thing in 68. So it gets a little convoluted going way back.
Yeah, you're right, because I thought it was 45, and then there's
Maybe,
something wrong
right.
with it, and then in 53 is
I
when
read
it.
between the lines. and
Yeah,
my-
there was
My
some-
interpretation was it was really a notice provision that said you did, whatever, the Attorney General, whoever said, you know what, you folks did it all wrong, they didn't proper notice, start again.
Oh
And then
dear.
in the 50s, and then in the
Yeah.
60s, and
Yeah, so it'll definitely be helpful. And then the kind of call it, the second part of this will be like, all right, you've got solar, like you talked about tonight, you got planning board, you got ZBA, let's pick a path, right? So you're not duplicating those kind of things. And there are other ones too, like that, right? So,
Like showrooms or, solar, and update a few other things.
yeah.
There's a lot
And the
of-
solar does need, and the bylaw itself needs some updating too as a whole, but just in terms of, if the app or site process through the board, looking at all the manage and, really intensive site plan process. Normally, if you didn't have that, it would be the ZBA looking at all those kind of issues, so that's kind of stuff. that we
there's a
talk-
lot.
Yeah.
This is just the first part of it.
Yeah, this is the first part.
There's a lot
Yeah.
of work to be done on
Yeah, so it's decades of unraveling.
it. Right, right.
So, but,
Yeah, 'cause I do remember once there was definitely some solar panel situations that got installed that never came before us, I'm aware of.
so, roof,
No, I'm talking about,
on the ground?
On the ground.
Okay, Well-
I'm aware of, I think I've seen them, and I don't.
is that right?
Well, we
Okay.
had one that was recent that came before us.
Yeah, we did, but there was another one.
There's a back?
That one's already installed. I
I
think
know
he's
it.
using it already.
Yeah.
No, I saw it.
I remember seeing one on Park Street that was just suddenly there, that I
Okay.
don't remember coming to us. But you can see it.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's, you can see it from the road, and it's right there. Yes.
I was excited last night, we had a little bit of the board, the planning board had a little bit of discussion about, on the table of uses, about newspapers. So I said, oh, who's coming back with a newspaper? This would be, I enjoy that.
No, forget it.
Times change.
That's out.
Newspaper and print shop, my favorite use.
Well,
Yeah.
Right.
Well, obviously, everything you're talking about and what was talked about last night, that's a good place to go, is to make these consolidations and
Yeah.
improvements, so.
Well, I mean,
Telephone exchange in there?
for everybody.
Yeah, right.
Everybody, yeah,
Yeah.
people have to work, the guys who work there all day.
How
will
about
get,
the roof-
you know,
the
Is that where they
Yeah.
plug
Yeah,
the
I agree.
things in?
So,
There's some very
So that's coming up.
archaic,
Some
Yeah, but no, thank you.
vestigial
That was-
uses
that was-
that
it
I
was
see
all-
hanging
the-
around that.
I commend the planning board and Bob and yourself. There was a lot of work that went into getting
It
that to this
is.
point, and they got a lot ahead of them.
so
Get ready for town
between
meeting.
Bob, Jonathan, and Nancy, his department just did
yeah.
Right.
99% of this. So I just got a
And this is
small
the stuff,
piece
the
of
articles, these articles will come up after everyone's already walked away from the meeting, right? This
It's all
is-
timing, right? You need
Yeah.
a two-thirds
you know,
vote on these.
But we
so-
gotta show up for that
You are, you're
town meeting, I
definitely
think.
tackling, I mean,
So-
there's a lot of old, like the night watchman, the accessory use, and then we have the residential with the room. If you rent a house or a condo
Oh,
or
the lot.
whatever, all members have to be related to each other, there's an old,
Right.
yeah,
All right,
that's,
what's
yeah.
a lot?
No roommates
Oh, I know what
allowed.
you're
It's
talking. What is
getting,
that
you
thing?
know.
The lodgers are cool, up to 4 are fine. Over
Yep.
4 is a lodging house, that apparently is totally not fine with the new hotel uses.
Right.
But it-
Yep.
I was like deep into that, where I'm like, what's
Yep.
the difference between the hotel and the inn? Because I'm looking at the definitions, I'm just like, they're licensed under the same state law. Then I'm just like, well, the hotel has a restaurant, that's really the only difference. So then I was getting into it.
The bed and breakfast
That's what I was
license
doing with
itself
my
is
last Friday night.
$100,000, yeah, I know.
So it's a lot.
It is.
Thank you.
All right, no
Anything
problem.
else?
I think we've,
The minutes?
the minutes.
Oh.
Oh, minutes, very important.
Lovely set.
Do we have a copy of it, or
I wasn't there.
the sign?
You decide.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Did everybody see the minutes?
I did.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes for June 15th, 2002.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. I wasn't here, but I did watch the meeting.
Mhm. Chris, you weren't here either, right?
No.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Is Tyler still with us?
Courtney could sign.
Can you, I didn't know you could sign.
I'm just wondering, is Tyler
For the
still with us?
minutes?
For the minutes, you were here.
Couldn't make
I was here.
Minutes,
here?
yeah,
I
you're
watched
you're
the
the
sign
only
for the
one who
minutes?
signed for the
Probably.
I'm the only one who signs.
Yeah, CJ's fine.
Okay.
To do anything.
And the remote got extended, I'm sure you know, right, till,
Oh, did it? Did
March, March
That was,
31st.
that was yesterday or something. That was a.
Why don't they just do us a solid and extend it to like 2030 and just kick that can until a little bit?
That would be
Motion to
nice.
close the hearing.
Anyone want to make that motion?
Did we have to do anything with the notice of violation?
No.
No, that was just
there for
that was just
information.
for informational that,
Foley's? Is that Red Foley? That, is that where the dairy was? Is that the farm?
It's across the dairy.
I don't know all the
across
people.
street.
I don't want to say either way, I don't know the owner.
Oh, it's across the street.
Yeah.
So this is Park Street here.
No,
That's
did you
partially-
on your
that's
way
the
home
dairy, I
knock on
believe,
our
right?
so?
Yeah.
Hey, is this Mr. Foley's friend? I don't know.
Foley is.
Right.
So when I was 13 years old, there were 5 dairies in Norfolk.
Oh, wow.
I'm the only one with cows, and I don't milk them right now. But not
You
even.
don't know the cows?
I don't milk my cows. No way.
Nope, no.
No, but I just, when you think of master plans, that's a huge difference in a 40-year
Yeah.
span. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's enormous. I mean, when you think about going from a rural to realistically housing for people of Boston or wherever else.
Especially when it takes 3 years to get the
Wait,
master plan.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I was wrong.
It's out of
I'm gonna
date
fix
by the
that.
time.
Wait,
you
that's
get-
this
right,
one.
It's gotta be a living
It's
document.
not the dairy then.
It's gotta be something
have
you can just
cranberry.
keep moving.
You know,
So
that's
we
the
have a
old
motion
cranberry
to close
bog.
the hearing?
That's the cranberry bog. Remember the cranberry
That
bog?
is
Motion to
the
close?
cranberry
Right, so
Do we
that's
have
the
a
property.
motion?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There you
Thank
go.
you, everyone. Have a good night.
This is part.